Hi everyone, welcome to the second episode of AutiMuse Podcast. I'm your host, Edsel. We're live at the University of Salford, New Adelphi Studio 4. Today I'm joined by an old friend of mine who's also a graduate at the University of Salford. He's working as a session musician and he also has experience in teaching music as well. Please welcome my guest today, Joe Threlfall. Welcome to the show, Joe.
Thanks very much for having us.
Yeah. So basically, this whole podcast is about like the music and autism, like based in education and also the music industry itself. Like, it's just tell us about yourself, like how you got into music, who inspired you, and how you come up to the person you are today in terms of music.
Yeah, sure. So, my kind of backstory, really, as it were, was I started getting into music really at the age of 14. I started playing guitar, learning to play guitar. Started out on acoustic, so kind of learnt the hard way, as you probably know, being a guitar player. That's really when it started. Learning chords, learning bar chords, and I didn't really know where it was going to go, as it were. It just something that became, I think, started off a passion, really, and then it kind of gravitated at the age of 16, where started learning electric, because I think by that time, at least, you, as anybody does who's a musician, you start listening to records of, I don't know, your dad or whoever, or your parents, and you're hearing different things, and that's kind of where it started for me.
Yeah, it's great that. Yeah, it's because I know it's in terms of music itself, because obviously you learn an instrument and you start getting into the passion of playing it every single day, like for a certain number of time. And it's like, in terms of like the music theory, because I know that's a really struggling area in terms of music itself. And like, how was it for you when you first started getting to know music theory? Like, how was it for the start?
Well, the first kind of time I think it came across music theory was when I was in college doing music. So I went to Berry College, and I remember doing a module on basically basic music theory. And that was kind of where it started. And as most people know, with musicians, guitar players, piano players, etc., when you're confronted with that for the first time at the age of, I think it was 21 at the time, 21, something like that.
Yes.
It's quite an overwhelming experience, because you're like, what on earth is all this information? What does all this mean? All that kind of thing. But yeah, that it I know what you mean. It can be a challenge, I think, when you're first faced with it. But I think from where I'm at now, it's a lot about learning concepts and understanding concepts. And really, I would say it's often said in life, isn't it, that if you don't know something, don't beat yourself up about it.
No.
Find a way to learn it. And I think the way that I learned it, and to a degree still learn it, actually, is always, as a musician, you're always still learning things, is by breaking things down slowly. And if I don't know something that I need to know, I would ask my guitar teacher, because I really, mainly, if I or maybe I might ask maybe my brother, who's piano player, classical piano player, or got a friend in the family who's also a piano player, who taught my brother, a guy called David Martin.
Yeah.
So for me, I have options. I'm still, as anybody is, learning a lot of theory and gaining a lot of knowledge. So theory can be like things like chord construction. It can be, okay, what are the notes in that chord, that 13th chord? So, for example, when you're playing stuff like, I don't know, like big band voicings, really big band stuff, you have a lot of like big chords, like major 9, or sharp 9, and these are the kind of chords I'm mentioning because we would often cover them in theory classes here at uni. And it's kind of learning to break down the method, developing a method and then kind of following that method so you can break the information down
Yeah, and it's good to like learn the basics before going any
mm.
further in the like learning the advanced formulas, because you got like not just the common scale notes, of course, but you also got like the advanced like
Yeah,
blues
yeah,
and harmonic, melodic minor, many
yeah.
more.
I mean, I have to be honest. I'm still at the moment to a degree, because maybe of my aspects. So I'm gradually getting familiar after maybe a long time. Sort of melodic minor modes, and kind of exploring that. And I say that because as someone with Asperger's, I don't want to overwhelm myself too quickly. And my guitar teacher would actually advise that, actually, in the sense of, yes, there's all this information out there in music terms to learn, and just taking um, this as an example. I know myself, if I fill myself up with too much stuff,
Yeah,
I'm trying to think, oh, I've got to learn this mode. Oh, these modes. And then and there's all these kind of, as you know, modes of scales, right?
mm.
Um, and there's several modes to learn. If you try and fill yourself up with too much of that, and then try to, I don't know, let's say that you're trying to do minor melodic modes and trying to learn all them patterns, and then trying to split that with harmonic minor modes, you're not really going to progress that well, because if you're filling yourself up with too much information, and let's say in one day you're trying to do that, and then that's not going to work out well.
Yeah,
It's not
because
going to work out well.
it's lack of overconfidence as well.
Yeah,
Mhm.
well, yeah, but also it's very quickly, you can overwhelm your brain. And your brain can
Yes.
only take so much information.
Mm.
So, like, I'm working on improvisation quite a bit, partly because of the hours I want to work in. My strongest thing, my kind of niche, really, as a guitar player, is music reading.
Yes. Yeah, because
Because actually, in terms of theory, that's um, stuff I understand. Because actually, I'm when I get a fresh chart, I do a lot of sight reading, for example. I'm not just looking at the information like randomly. I'm actually subconsciously
yeah,
looking at the theory side of things.
yeah,
And thinking,
yeah.
okay, where, this chord here, is it, like written out voicings,
Mhm.
getting piano sheet music. You might have a chord to play, to read. And when you're analyzing that, that's breaking down theory, because you're analyzing, okay, the notes in that chord.
Yeah. You can apply these skills in
And
composition as well,
yeah,
like
and then you're
making
breaking
sure.
down the harmony as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. You got to be careful. You're not like choosing chords outside the scale. I mean, you can like change modes, of
Yeah,
course.
you can change modes, you can change. I mean, it's this
Yeah,
thing with harmony as well. You can
yeah.
experiment. And this is another thing as well as the
Hmm.
notes, it's bit harmony and um gradually learn so many things. I was sitting in so many things you think you want to learn. But the way I would advise it, because I've been advised this over the years, is take things one step at a time. Don't try and fill yourself up with too many things.
No.
And the most important thing as well regarding music, anything like music theory as well, or anything in music, is don't compare yourself to other people.
No.
In the sense of, if you've got a practice plan, right, for theory or for music reading, that's like, or scale learning,
Yeah.
that's your practice routine, right? That's not anybody else's practice routine.
No.
And in the practice room, when you, especially if you're like talking about theory, practicing theory, that's your um, practice. It's nobody else's.
Mm.
So, the biggest advice I would say to anybody is, don't judge yourself. That's the worst thing you can do.
Yeah.
And don't compare yourself to other people.
Yeah.
Everyone's on the journey as a musician, especially people in my case, being on the spectrum. And yeah, don't compare yourself to anybody else. If you need to learn something, if you're struggling with something like theory wise, I would say find a good teacher.
Yes, because they could definitely give you the great advice and how to start off and like how to really progress further and also challenge yourself in composing your own music, but also reading other people's score. Because I know you have experience
Yeah,
as a session musician playing with the big band at Salford, and
yeah,
what was it like for you, like getting to know other people and
yeah.
also like keeping up
So
with the
like
sight
the
reading?
big band thing, yeah, big band thing wasn't really session work. That was when I was a student.
Yeah.
But I'll get onto my experience of little bits of what kind of bits of things I've done in a second. So the big band thing. So when I was at uni, originally came to uni in terms of all learning stuff.
Yeah.
Obviously, you're gradually learning theory when you're doing foundation year course at Salford, here at Salford. And in those days, my sort of theory knowledge and my reading skills weren't really there.
No.
But when you have those kind of classes, in terms of, I mean, classes in music theory, like with Tim France,
Yeah.
and also stuff where you're doing performance lessons with a specialized tutor,
Mm-hmm.
you can kind of learn the methodology, how it works.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, like you're saying with the big band stuff, yeah, I remember auditioning as a foundation year student, not being into jazz music as it were, but not really knowing how to read it. I remember being the first time I did it, it's funny, pretty laughable about it now. But I was out for a depth. I strictly remember. And then I remember auditioning the second time, I'm not getting it. And then by the second time, I got better at reading, sight reading, that is. And then went away and spent the whole summer getting more advanced stuff with my tutor as well, learning a lot of jazz voicings, a lot of basically how to read notation.
Yes.
And got to a good enough level there so that when I did it the third time, I got the gig. But what helped as well in terms of getting that kind of gig was two things. Yeah, going along and sitting in with the players the first two times when I didn't get a gig, and learning from them and sitting next to them, like let's say someone sat here, and then looking at the charts and then watching them do it.
Yeah.
And asking questions, and because it gave me the opportunity to hear out how it came together. Because obviously the big band would rehearse in Studio 6, which is upstairs.
Yeah.
And they're obviously playing a lot of complex music. But yeah, I was kind of lucky in a sense of that by the third year main degree at least, that I got the I remember getting an email from Tim saying, I've got him. It's funny the way how he did that. He would often, sometimes I remember one time he said, like, if I email you, it used to be, I think it was like first or second time, it was the case of like, if you got an email from Tim, it meant you didn't get in. And I think the third time when I did get in, it did it the other way around. He emailed the people that were in and didn't email the people that weren't in.
Yeah.
So we would often change it up, which is quite funny. So yeah, that spurred me on to do that. But also like socially as well, learning to navigate that. Sometimes it's challenging because you're in with a lot of players who are really quite good guys. They've been trombone players and saxophone players, but I very quickly learned to get good at that stuff because a lot of that music, repetition, repetition and that kind of thing. And when you're looking at stuff like that, especially from a theory aspect and reading lots of information that you're looking at, breaking it down, especially as someone with Asperger's or autism, breaking down the information. I mean, my relationship as well is, with a lot of those, especially Tim, was great because Tim was always encouraging. Tim France, to me at least, because, and I'm very grateful to the guys in Big Band for even allowing me to be in it. Truthfully, great gratitude it was a great opportunity to do. To play some of that really challenging music. Learning all these different styles like samba and and the funk stuff and kind of getting a sense of how to really play funk. So like I remember one of the tunes we did was like Summer Samba. It would swing, and in terms of, like you said, socializing as artists, as someone on the spectrum, we would split off sections as into a rehearsal, right? You'd have rhythm section and then you'd have the other guys. and you got to know people, right?
Yeah,
But
it can be quite challenging to like really get to know people, especially
mm,
when in the autistic spectrum, because I know
yeah,
social
yeah,
anxiety can be quite a thing
yeah,
in
yeah.
certain ways.
But yeah, you get to know people
Mm,
socially in that regard.
mm,
Um, and I never got judged for being autistic. I think
no,
people, sorry, Asperger's rather,
yes,
differentiate between the two because that's what I am. Asperger's, mild
mm,
Asperger's. Um, I was, uh, people never, I never got judged for it.
no,
Um, you know, and I think the biggest thing is I was just allowed to do my thing really. Is it? Is
mm,
answer it. You work. In those situations, you work hard and you study
mm,
the theory and you study the music. You make sure you're prepared as much as possible.
yeah,
There's lots
I
of.
definitely agree.
It's an opportunity where, especially like big band, and also the ensemble session orchestra that was in as well. Opportunity to play great music with great people, and also not just, I mean, people that are, the term is typical for people who are not
Mm,
Asperger's or on the spectrum, but yeah, just kind of the opportunity,
mm,
great opportunity just to play music with people.
yeah, yeah, and I understand you also had like experience teaching wise, like for like you said for your final negotiated project. Like, how was it for you, like teaching to like people who are like in the spectrum, but also if you have
It was
experience teaching?
interesting, yeah, because you would it's every person that I taught.
Mm,
I mean, um, it's quite unique. So the
mm,
backstory of that is I went back to the school/college that I was at
yeah,
the age of, I think, about the age of 18, 19, and
yeah,
that was really when I got the Asperger's diagnosis.
mm,
Actually, got it quite late,
yeah,
actually, because in school days, actually, not that people probably didn't know what autism was, but
no,
I was diagnosed actually with a learning disability, right? And I got my autism diagnosis at the age of 19,
yeah,
because one of my, well, yeah, long story short, one of my parents, anyway, long story short, took me to be diagnosed, and that's where I can
yeah,
from there. But yeah, what you learn in that aspect of teaching people is that the point I'm trying to make is that people, it's the spectrum is unique to each individual, which is interesting.
yeah,
So you're kind of learning how to adapt your teaching to each person to get the best out of them. And that
yeah,
was really regarding the project that I did, my goal. So the project that I did really was I was teaching students of the school rock band, a blues rock style, and this had been agreed with their music teacher because I had a meeting with them,
yeah,
and we were kind of discussing ideas. And he showed me a video of them playing "Smoke on the Water," right?
yeah,
So because before that meeting, I knew I was doing it for community music project as far as my masters.
mm,
Obviously, I mean, here at uni,
yeah,
I'm jumping back and forth a bit, but
it's okay.
essentially, um, when coming up with that idea, um, I found that adapting to people's needs, specifically in the sense of, so for example, I might give them a task and might say, right, okay, to the guitar player, these are the chords that I'm playing. And rather than saying that, I would visualize it. So one of the things I think that's definitely evident, and um, it goes along with, actually, I think the ways some, I say maybe, some schools and education professions
Yeah,
teach people on Asperger's or spectrum is use a lot of visual aid, right?
yes,
Because I think from what I found in my research on my MA was visual aids allow people who are on the spectrum
yeah,
to see things and learn things a lot quicker because
yeah,
they've got that visual aid there.
yeah, they do, yeah, mm,
Um, it's like, um, with someone else, I could like sit here and try and explain. I don't know. Let's say like I don't know, how to play a Queen song, for example.
Oh yeah.
Right, let's just take that as an example.
Mm.
But let's say I were explain that to someone on the spectrum, they might not understand, like, because they haven't got a visual aid.
No.
Right. So in that environment, having visual aids helped people to like progress in what I was teaching them, which was obviously like blues rock style based music.
Yeah.
And obviously as well, the interesting thing was I kind of adapted it to where they were, because some of them were quite beginner. So with supervision of the music teacher as well, you're working with the music teacher, who's also a great guy, great person rather, and then from their guidance, adapting it to the students, and also working one-on-one with the students. I think that's one of the greatest things of why it worked, because in that scenario, the group that I was working with would split, and what I would do is maybe spend a few minutes individually one-on-one with each of them. Right. And if you think of it like a jigsaw puzzle, you go around one student and you say, this is the task, and you work with what their instrument is, and you work with that person. And you say to them, right, okay, work on that, I'll be back in a few minutes. And you go around. And they did it. What the amazing thing was that they did it. I think, I don't know for sure, but I think possibly looking back on it, some of them might have been high functioning, Asperger's, or I mean, I don't know, but it makes me think of that, because in the way that they processed it like that, and some people might say, oh yeah, blues rock's easy. Yeah, some music can seem easy, but underneath the foundations, like seem the theory, so it can be a lot more complicated.
Yeah, because as you progress, it's technically for many people with autism, also Asperger's as well, they are really fast learners. When it comes to music theory, they get to know the basics quite fast as well. Like I say, blues rock music is an easy genre because you're just using both the primary and secondary chords, but
like 1, 4, 5, or that kind of thing.
But it's like really getting the like, if you keep up the motivation, because I'm also a composer myself, and I also produce the music at home, and also have experience working in the studios, but mainly on campus, of course. Also composing like progressive rock, because it's the thing is, it does use like a lot of advanced music theory elements, so like changing time signatures as well.
Which is another interesting thing. I mean, playing different time signatures.
Because like one student who used to come, who was here, named Cameron Watson. Because he plays a lot with irregular and regular meter in his social media videos, and it's as a session musician as well yourself, like have you ever composed like music that uses like irregular meter, like outside of university?
I'll say two things. It's nice of you to describe me as a session player. I'm very much still starting out in that word, but it's, I take it as confidence, I guess. I've played stuff like a lot of theatre charts that go into odd meter. Obviously, I do a lot of reading thing, and I remember played the overture to Jesus Christ Superstar. I was practicing at home, because I think somebody who played that show, I'd had the music for it, as it were. And that was interesting, because it starts off in like 4/4 and it goes to 7/4. It goes all over the place. But definitely. It's really quite interesting because you have a lot of information. So you're reading a lot of notes up here, 12th fret, 5th position, if you know guitar and how.
Definitely.
Well, and then kind of going into different time signatures. So subconsciously in your head, you're reading all this information and then going to 5/4. But it's weird, really. I have a sort of method to it. I really, it's interesting. I'd never considered myself to be good at maths at school, but if you think of music and you think of music reading, right, as an example, it's sort of mathematics, because definitely. It's fractions. When you're splitting, let's say 5/4, and you've got a certain rhythmic information, depending on what the information is. You're splitting that grouping. And I teach myself while I taught my guitar teacher, teach yourself buzzwords
Mm.
for certain rhythms like da or the da or the and those kind of things.
Mm.
And what's interesting with the way my brain works is my brain has kind of learned to make it automatic.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
I mean, the time signature thing's interesting, like you're saying, because a lot of it's about feel. It's like the 5/4 thing. It's got that fifth crotchet in the bar, and it's got that kind of pulse.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. It's especially like this whole polyrhythm, cross rhythm is.
Yeah. There's all sorts of kind of like I mean, even like some like triplet stuff, because you get that a lot of that in polyrhythmic.
Yeah,
polyrhythmic music, quote unquote triplets.
Yeah, whether you like listening to like other people's songs, but also composing your very own.
Yeah,
because it is common that it's writing your own music can be really challenging to like really make the listener think that hey, this could be really amazing. It could be the next big thing, of course, but it's I mean, isn't it really a necessary element depending which genre you specialize in? But like, is there like a specific genre that you like to play as a musician or that you're composing your own music?
Yeah, there's a few things. It depends really. So I went to see a while ago with my dad. I went to see Nile Rodgers and Chic. My dad's a Nile Rodgers fan. I think it was back in 2015, maybe at the arena, and that was just extraordinary musicianship and the kind of the funk stuff. I mean, that guy's a legend. I don't know whether Niles Rodgers himself is on the spectrum. I've seen documentaries about him. But an extraordinary guitar player, producer, session guy, everything under the sun.
And
what's interesting with him is like he's got a groove and a timing that's just unreal. He's almost like a musical genius. I mean, the way he does stuff. I mean, think about how many hit songs he's written. And he's again, I don't know if he's on the spectrum or not, but he's an inspiration to me, I think, because he's just like doing everything. He really enjoys what he does. And he's just like going for it.
Because there is like a lot of the musicians and producers who are also in the spectrum. Like some of them are diagnosed, some of them rumored.
There's a guy on I think I've seen on YouTube called the Autistic Guitarist. His channel. And like he does a lot of session work actually. So it goes to show really that it's possible, to work in the industry. A lot of, I think the advantage of being on the spectrum is you have, because maybe it's two things, like you said earlier on before it came out, it's passion, maybe to some degree. Well, for me at least, I would say, so I'm going to talk about. I was talking about my experience. For me, it's sometimes fixation, because I can spend. My parents would tell you this. I could spend hours with the guitar sitting there,
definitely,
and playing, and then the time goes, and it's like, oh goodness me, it's 8 o'clock. Because you're kind of in the moment. I mean, nowadays I've learned to take regular breaks because otherwise of dehydration, all that kind of thing. It's kind of
definitely.
You kind of learn. But yeah, it's a sheer joy of it. I think that I really enjoy.
Well, moving on to the music industry, because I know you've been looking for work as a session musician for all companies, especially like cruise work as well. Like
the cruise thing, I'm still working towards, because I really my goal in life, well, in lots of ways, is to be a really proficient guitarist as much as possible. But my goal in life is, if I can, is to kind of make a living out of doing a lot of theatre work and a lot of cruise ship. Basically, a lot of sight reading stuff, because a lot of these, what I figured out, and it might still be the way in the industry. I'm not too sure. Is if someone puts something in front of you, even a composer like yourself puts something, and you can read it,
Yeah, definitely.
and you can make, and not just read it, but play that part a bit like they did in the 70s and 80s, where
Yeah,
they turn up to studios and you go, right, okay, here's this, and you might be a funk chart in 7/4 or whatever it is.
yeah, yeah,
Um, it. I mean, in my opinion, you can make hopefully, make a good living
yeah.
out of that. I mean, it's challenging as in some regards because of the way things are with
Oh
it.
yeah, yeah.
um, you know, with certain things, but um, hopefully I can, yeah, get where I want to go, and it seems to be um slowly going that way. I mean,
Mm.
one of my parents was saying there's no rush with it.
Yeah,
Um, there's often the expectation, I think, when you have to leave uni, like, oh yeah, I've got to do this, and I've got to try and get there, and I've got to try and get there, and
yeah.
very quickly kind of overwhelm yourself.
Yeah, because like it's finding the experiences can be really challenging because like there's a lot of people these days that are applying for jobs in the
Mm.
music industry, but also like in different areas where like holiday resorts and theaters and
Yeah,
many other things, like you said, and like basically that's like finding theater work.
yeah. Finding fit work's an interesting one
Yeah,
because yeah, I'm still like working into that
yeah,
because yeah, I've got the reading experience of big band and session orchestra, and I read every day
hmm,
because in those environments, especially in theatre, you're not always going to get the pad ahead of time. At least from what I've been told, because I
yeah,
have a friend, a guy called Tommy Gibbons, who plays in session orchestra here at uni.
mm,
And long story short, he did Sister Act, and the
mm,
musical director, whoever it was, he got the pad on the day, so he's reading the pad on the day.
yeah,
But it's, if you think about it, it's possible to do that because if you're doing that kind of thing like repetition every day, and you're doing that kind of, in anything, if like
yeah,
let's say you're doing scales or modes or if you're
yeah,
doing that repetition every single day, like even for
yeah,
an hour or hour and a half,
yeah. But you could also
comes
improvise your own
together.
bits as well, like don't
Yeah,
make sure it's not too
yeah,
samey and stuff.
yeah, yeah. A lot of it, yeah. But it's that kind of work that excites me, and I think really kind of where I wanted to do the theatre thing started off was I went to see We Will Rock You, the Queen musical,
Yeah, I've seen that one 2 years ago in
and
Manchester.
I suppose I became a Queen fan as well. I'm a big Queen fan, as you probably know,
Yeah.
and saw that musical many years ago. I was like, I want to do that. It was like,
Hmm.
that's cool.
Oh yeah.
I want to, what want to basically, do that.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, the theatre thing is appealing to me because I think it's to me, the sheer buzz, as it were, in a good way, of being in the theatre pit, even as someone who's on the spectrum,
Yeah.
and so, something that you dreamed about to a degree when you were a teenager, and
Hmm.
then doing it. Um, I mean, I'm sitting in on some stuff in May,
Hmm.
musical 9 to 5.
Oh yeah, that's great music. That, yeah.
Yeah, friend of Paul Cusick's is the music director for that.
Mm.
And I had a chat with him when I went, because I went along to a cast rehearsal,
Yeah.
and I was sat in the room for this guy. The cast rehearsal, obviously, the way it works in theatre is the cast rehearsal with the piano and the MD, and then on a certain date, the band gets called, the band come in, and it gets put together, right?
Mm.
But yeah, sitting on that cast rehearsal, on singers, it's like this is crazy,
Yeah. Yeah.
to think like as a teenager, I wanted to network, and I'm gradually networking, and I was sort of like, this is quite cool.
Yeah, because I know a lot of musicians these days in this generation today is well, social media is becoming a big thing.
Yeah,
Obviously, got Instagram and TikTok that
yeah, yeah.
had the high statistics. And how how do you like to promote yourself in terms of like really getting yourself out there? And also, you could advise any musician in and outside of the spectrum who are looking to go into that industry
Yeah.
in that
So
sort of way.
like for me, I'm still very much learning the kind of finger self promotion. I did a video for something, for some theatre thing, and I didn't get it because I think it was a pro thing. I can't remember, it was through Facebook or what. Yeah, it was through actually through a friend of mine who rang me and said somebody that he was speaking to in a guitar shop needed somebody. And anyway, I filmed some promo stuff. Now,
Mm.
previously I used to be not very much, didn't really like being on camera. Used
Mm.
to find it weird, and anxiety and all the rest
Yeah,
of it.
definitely.
But doing it with actually from help from my family in terms of filming it
Hmm.
was actually a great learning curve.
Yeah.
Actually, because what I found was okay. You know, whatever reason, the people who were doing this theatre thing, if it's on Stafford, the MD had whoever it was, I don't know the story, but they got somebody anyway to do it. They probably had more experience, but that's not really a bad thing
No.
because if you think about it, I learned two things in that. One, the idea of self emotion and actually getting past the thing of being on camera and just focusing on instrument, and doing
Mm.
that and enjoying that aspect of it and filming yourself. And
Yeah.
then because I think what is interesting in that is you can watch it back and go, if you're, as also on the spectrum are, we might look at something and go, that groove there, I could probably improve that, and you can kind of
Yeah.
refilm it,
Yeah, definitely
right?
go over and over, see
You
what
can kind of go,
what
and if
change.
you
Yeah.
actually think about it, a lot of these people who are filming on Instagram,
Mm.
you might look like the perfect take,
Yeah.
but how many times have they filmed it?
Mm. Yeah.
They could have filmed it several times over,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
right? Before they get the perfect take,
Hmm.
because the promotion, but yeah, that's been a great learning curve. I'm hoping to do more of that. I mean, I do play live as well in church a lot,
Hmm.
and that's great. So that's another learning
Hmm.
learning curve as well, because even though it's like a church thing, the band, the worship band, if you that's the words to use, that's what it's called in church
Yeah.
worship music. We play a lot of what's it called? Um, I would call it pop. The closest thing I could describe to it, if you're not Christian, is it's kind of like
No.
sort of that kind of thing where you see a lot of pop artists. They'll have like a backing band and have
Yeah.
click track and have MD
Yeah.
and all that kind of thing. And that's a great learning curve playing live because you learn the stuff beforehand.
Yeah.
Because it's not a reading situation. It's for that. It's a
Hmm.
different thing, which is a good thing for me. I've been
Yeah.
doing it for many years.
Hmm.
And you turn up to rehearsal maybe on a Monday night and you're playing the stuff.
Hmm.
It's great. It's great to do that because it develops your timing as a musician as well.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I definitely agree with you there. But also, like, project wise, like, because I know you mentioned something about like what you did in university for your final go to project. Like, outside of uni, what are you currently working on at the moment? Not in terms of like session musicianship, but also other areas outside of that area, basically.
So like I said, I'm trying to slowly network into the theatre stuff. I'm currently trying to investigate sitting in at the Palace
Mhm.
Theatre.
Yes.
Um, my aunt's looking into that for me because someone else, because I'm in a Facebook group of theatre musicians and stuff.
Hmm.
And that's basically, debt work and things might get advertised.
Yes.
And I'll admit there are some people in the theatre that are more experienced than me, but only because they've maybe doing it longer. But I'm if you think about it, I'm in the same process that they were maybe when they started out.
Hmm.
Is you're going around to local theatres and you're kind of sitting in on stuff. And what I'm doing is in sitting in May is hopefully well, I'm hoping to like begin depping because
Hmm.
depping means, and the way it works in theatre is that you gain the trust of the MD
Yeah.
who's doing the show, and obviously professional level it's fixer, right?
Hmm.
So if you think about it, gaining experience doing theatre work, and you might, if you get a shot to do it, I'd recommend anybody to do it. If you're a good reader, right?
Yeah.
Um, doing depth work
Yes.
because if you learn material and you advanced it and you get good at doing that and you're
Hmm.
prepared,
Yeah. Hmm.
you get a chance to depth on a theatre show. Once you've done one, my theory is thinking to myself, once I've done one, and I gain the trust of the people who are in it,
Yeah.
then you get trusted to do more,
Yeah.
which means actually opens up the opportunity for more self promotion as well.
Yeah. And you get a lot of connections with other people as well working in
Yeah,
the industry too. Yeah.
yeah. Because if you, at a professional level, you think of it as like a tower, right?
Yeah.
professional, like, unless, I mean, in all aspects, if you want to get here, right, you want to get to the top here, you've
Yeah.
got to think of it like, well, okay, I need to, this is where I'm at, so here. And for me, speaking to like Diane Hammond run session orchestra, that she said that's how she started out, because she does a lot of theatre work playing in pits.
Yeah.
And she was like, best advice I can give you, Joe, is start off looking at local theatre.
Yes.
Because A, it'll give you the experience.
Oh yeah.
More experience in that regard, because it can be intense. Because what's going on stage, musicians are playing, and you might be playing bits where, an actor's got dialogue and you're playing something. So for me, it's going to be a good experience to do that.
Yeah, and everything you said would really be inspirational to other musicians who
over people on the spectrum.
Yeah, also like because he specializes in like the sight reading, of course, music performance too. Because it is because music performance is really popular in terms of like not just education but in the music industry as well.
Yeah.
And like myself, I'm more in the on the technology side as well as the performance in some occasions, but it is like really everybody has their own pathway, of course.
Everyone has their own pathway, but everyone has their own niche.
Yes.
Things. Yeah. I suppose the easiest way, so that's, like I said, that's what I'm working towards. And obviously the cruise ship thing, I plan to do that as well.
Yeah.
Probably maybe September. Really, like I said, September, August, sorry, or September, planning to do that.
Yeah.
But really, like I said before, it's no rush. It's like a goal to do that,
and it just takes time too, doesn't
it? Yeah. I mean, I'm practicing every day and reading stuff every day and getting more expert on stuff that I'm doing. Not is complex stuff. It gets hard gradually each week. So I'm on a thing called Site Manufacturing, and I'll have more stuff, harder rims in each week, guided by my tutor Diego. Diego.
Yeah, Diego Prato. Yeah.
So it gradually gets harder. But I do a method, and I'll explain. Right, because this is useful for people who are on the spectrum.
Yeah.
If you have a method, if you are good at something, right, having a method is really good, because it means you just follow the method, you follow the routine. If you think of people on the spectrum, one of the things that they say in research, as you probably know this, is routine, because it's like the same routine. If you think of guitar practice or music practice, if you think of it as a routine and you do it every day, you're going to get better and better and better.
Yeah. You also like scheduling your own like times wisely as well as
as well.
Yeah, picturing that could be the right structure for you, and then eventually you could like move on to something new, but like keep up with that.
Yeah, structure's really, it's really, I think the key. I think key. I think with that kind of thing, with anything, because for me, like, and I won't mention too much about the reading thing, but having like Diego, for example, it just clicked when I started learning to do all that kind of stuff. And then it just kind of took off. It became such a passion. It's like, I mean, even like after practicing, like, each day I do that sort of stuff, and I do lots of other practice things as well, and know in my mind that I'm getting better. So that for the gigs that I want to do, like the cruise ship stuff and the theatre stuff, to be able to handle, as someone on the spectrum, handle the situation. Because really, if you think about it, especially like you were saying about it before, you had applied for the cruise thing.
Yes, I did. Yeah.
And they want to see how you're handling the real situation. I mean, and this applies to every aspect, not just that kind of thing, but it applies to other areas in the music industry. I don't know, let's say if you're doing live sound, right? You might be someone on the spectrum who is into doing live sound and producing. It's learning to, really learning to cope. And I think a lot of it is, especially these days, it's going to learning to manage what's up here.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. it gets really struggling to get the experience also because like some of these big companies
Mm.
that work in the music industry, but also like specialize in holiday organizations too, like that look for musicians.
Yeah,
A
yeah,
lot of these organizations look for highly successful musicians who like got great experience, like
yeah,
because like if you say if there was like a musician or in and outside the spectrum who wants to have that experience but don't have any professional experience at all but get upset because they got rejected, what are your thoughts like on people on finding work in the music industry but then getting rejected and not being able to have the experience even though they start trying to begin their careers?
yeah. I think it's very easy to get
Yeah.
upset or overwhelmed,
Mm,
and I've had this in my life when when you're learning
mm,
um things. Rejection's a big thing in my life, but
mm,
um it's not always good. It's not always an encouragement I would offer. It's not always going to be that way.
mm,
And you, the biggest, like I said, the biggest advice I can give is be confident in yourself, because I think, especially in the world today, is being confident in yourself, and you've got to
yeah.
trust your own ability.
Mhm,
I think success of any kind,
yeah.
the real kind of sense of it is that is really kind of it's down to us.
Yeah.
But there are things you can do to help yourself along the way, and
Mm,
especially as a musician,
yeah.
whatever area you want to go in, is by um, speaking to people who are in the industry, even if people who are not on the spectrum, and say, okay, how do you do that? I'm interested in getting involved in this. Right,
Mm,
let's say like it's a recording session or something, and let's say someone's a producer is on the spectrum, and they might want to learn to produce. The advice I would give is ask to sit in on the
yes.
recording session. Just
Mhm,
say, I'll sit in the corner.
yeah.
If it's a depending on it's a big recording session. Um, can I sit in and watch
Yeah.
at the starting basis? And um,
Yeah. And that can really understand like how it will all works
mm,
and
you can
get
kind of learn that way.
yeah,
Yeah,
and you know what to expect as well when it comes to working like in a professional environment or like
yeah.
in a semi-professional environment
But
because
also as well, if you're sitting in in that regard, it shows that um, you're respectful to what's going on as well
yes.
in that environment.
Hmm.
You're courteous,
Hmm.
because, like, as you know, being a producer, recording sessions can be quite busy. They can be quite full on.
Yeah, and some musicians can have well, some can be really punctual, but then eventually
Yeah,
it can lead to some disadvantages as
yeah,
well.
yeah, yeah. But I think, like I'm saying, like, depending on what you want to go into,
Hmm.
offer help, is offer to help. You know, so like I went along to a cast thing for that musical that I'm going to be sitting in the banco, and it was a
Yeah.
cast rehearsal,
Hmm.
and I had spoken to some of the people. It's called St Dunstan's AODS, Amateur Operatic Drama Society.
Yeah.
And I emailed them and I said, I'm looking at pit work, Can I come and meet your MD?
Yeah.
And they were like, yeah, okay, come down. So it was in Boston.
Yeah.
So I went down there, and I just, again, getting to know people, being polite, if people might need setting up, especially in that rehearsal. They might need putting, I don't know, simple things. They might need putting chairs up. But by doing that, you can chat to people. You can show people you're not just here for one thing. You
Yeah.
kind of want to get to know people, be integrated.
Yeah.
Um,
Definitely. Mm.
yeah,
Yeah. Right. Well, thanks very much for coming there, Joe. It's really been an honor having you here today, and you really gave us some really inspirational words to our viewers. It's
yeah, yeah,
because it's everybody in autistic spectrum really struggles like finding work in the music industry, and
yeah.
it can be really struggling. But yeah, what you said throughout this whole interview is
I
brilliant.
I'd say as well, like, quickly, don't ever give up. If you
Hmm.
have a dream of doing something, keep going, no
Yeah,
matter what anybody else
yeah,
says to you and says you can't do it.
mm,
Um, Believe in yourself, have confidence in yourself,
yes,
and if you don't know something, don't big yourself up about it. Find out,
mm,
because there's a lot of good teachers, especially music teachers, people in especially there's a lot of good people in schools and colleges as well, who teach, who really understand people on the spectrum. And if you find, as an autistic person who has Asperger's, if you find those people, find the good people, as I say, and confide in them, especially as a musician, you can go a long way, because having a good teacher helps.
That's what
but
it's all
the
about,
biggest thing is believe in yourself and have confidence in yourself and your own ability.
Thank you very much for having me
Yeah,
here today, Joe.
thanks, guys.
Thank you, Joe Threlfall, everyone. We'll be back in for the next episode so very soon. Thank you for watching. All social media sites will be on the description box below. We'll see you next time for the next episode. Bye bye, everyone.